Hey, what's up guys, welcome back to another weekly dose of aviation. This is the 100th episode of Weekly Dose of Aviation, and to celebrate I made this 1 hour special featuring the best clips throughout the series, so sit back and enjoy. This Boeing 747 crashing into a building as a movie stunt.
Dude, that thing's moving so fast. Oh my god. Oh! It's not stopping. Oh. Oh my god. Dude, that is badass.
It turned out that crashing a real plane was cheaper than doing it with CGI, so that's what they did. This is how cutting a plane wing in half looks. This huge RC jet weighing 220 pounds or 100 kilograms was flying at an air show when suddenly it tore apart.
Robert, das ist auch Robert Sturzkopf, der hier.
Luckily, no one was injured. This helicopter was lifting heavy cargo, but then dropped the cargo in the middle of the street. Luckily, no one was injured. It looks like it's this guy's first time at the airport. This plane nearly hit a bird while approaching an airport in Italy. This person was inspecting the propeller when they accidentally started it by turning it too much. Luckily, they made it out without any injuries. This helicopter dropping a car. This was a stunt at an air show in Iceland, so luckily no one was injured. This plane flying really low over a crowd of people. This United Airlines Boeing 777 had one of its engines blow up after taking off from Denver. This is audio from the control tower.
Mayday, Mayday, United 328 Heavy, Mayday, Mayday aircraft just experienced a engine failure, need a turn immediately.
The plane immediately returned to the airport and managed to land safely. Luckily, no one was injured. This plane struggling to land in a storm. This plane violated a no-fly zone, so this Libyan fighter jet had to intercept it. They then told the pilot to land and he followed the instructions. This is how low planes have to fly in order to land at St. Bart's Airport, which is located in the Caribbean.
That was so low. Oh!
This Cessna had to land without its landing gear. Luckily, no one was injured. This helicopter struck a power line while doing a rescue practice. Luckily, no one was injured. These planes almost hit each other. This plane was about to touch down in heavy rain, but the rain got worse just as they were about to land, causing them to lose visibility.
Minimums. Go around.
They then aborted the landing and went around.
How's your brakes?
This plane's landing gear collapsed after landing. Luckily, no one was injured. The skilled helicopter pilots filming a rally. This plane went ice drifting. This plane had to land in the ocean right next to a beach in Florida after the engine failed.
He's gonna land in the water. He's gonna land in the water. Nah, he's scaring us.
No, he's going down.
Right by people.
Holy shit!
Luckily, no one was injured, and here's the pilot walking out unharmed. This plane got really close to hitting a bird.
Если не возражаете, пройду через траверс с Октябрьского.
This plane made a bouncy landing. This plane caught on fire at an airport in Florida due to a fuel leak while taxiing to the runway. Luckily, everyone made it out. This plane had to land without its nose gear.
And he's gonna probably turn the prop off now.
This cargo plane landed really hard. This plane doing a really low pass. These two planes at an air show looked like they were about to land at the same time when one of them aborted.
Takto, dámy a páni, 154, tesne, dotkneme sa. 10, to bolo 10 cm.
This plane landing without its landing gear.
Turn to land, 30 right, 1 Bravo Delta, thanks for your help.
This guy landing a plane with a monkey in his lap. This Boeing 787 was taking off in Mexico when a bird flew into the left-hand engine. This caused the plane to quickly abort the takeoff and taxi back to the gate. Luckily, no one was injured except the bird. This helicopter flying low straight towards a driving car as a planned stunt. This A319 was descending into Bogotá's international airport when it hit a balloon full of New Year's Eve decorations. Long strings of plastic got wrapped around the aircraft and some got into one of its engines. Luckily, the plane could still land without any issues and no one was injured. This Cessna Citation jet flying really close to the ground. These planes flying in a formation for the Formula 1 Abu Dhabi Grand Prix. This plane flying sideways to cut a ribbon. This plane going for its last flight before being scrapped. This person was filming out of an airplane window at night and managed to capture what lightning looks like from a plane. These people flying really close to a C-17. This is how the deepest lake in the United States, called the Crater Lake, looks from a plane. This flying instructor flying with his students were forced to land without the nose gear. Luckily, no one was injured. This CCTV footage captured a plane that was parked without brakes. It then rolled into another plane, and this happened at an airport in Scotland. This is how the solar eclipse looks from a plane.
To our right, it's just completely dark.
This is incredible. You can see stars.
Oh my gosh, I see stars.
Oh wow.
Oh, there it is. Holy shit.
This is
The sun is...
fun.
The sun's gone.
Yeah, it's happening.
Now you can look with your eyes.
Oh man, that is nuts.
That is incredible.
Oh wow, that is so cool.
This fighter jet doing a tight turn over the crowd. This plane in Brazil was on its second attempt to land when the plane bounced and went off the runway. Luckily, no one was injured. This jet scaring the crowd. This plane flying really slow. This plane was pretty much empty, so it took off really fast. This is how refueling a plane mid-air looks. This person was driving down the road when they suddenly saw a helicopter a bit closer than expected.
Whoa. Massive helicopter.
This helicopter struggling to refuel mid-air. This Boeing 727 taking off with fuel leaking out of its wing. The pilot was aware of it, and the problem was simply due to warm temperatures. After a while it stopped and the plane continued flying. This plane flying really close to the water. This pilot stopped the plane to wave and say hello to the plane spotters. This Boeing 747 overtaking a Boeing 737.
Yeah. Two of them, huh? It's a 747. See how the guy is, yeah.
Amazing.
This plane casually flying upside down. This plane hit a balloon but was not damaged. This A380 flying with a breathtaking view in the sunset. Plane's landing gear collapsed when touching down. Luckily, no one was injured. This pilot doing a dangerous maneuver on his last flight in a Boeing 727. This Swiss Air Force fighter jet shooting into a lake. This plane landing in a very strong crosswind. This plane putting out a wildfire close to an airport. This plane flying really close to a flock of birds. This car rushing to help this U-2 spy plane land. Since the plane most often can't land on its own due to limited visibility, it needs a car to tell the pilots information, such as how close they are to the ground. This pilot practicing a spin. This plane was dropping military vehicles called Humvees when 3 of the Humvees fell down and hit the ground without parachutes.
Oh! Yes! Yes! Yes!
It turned out that the parachutes weren't set up correctly, causing them to not deploy.
Yeah! There's another one. Oh, there it is. Yes! Oh!
The Humvees were destroyed, but luckily no one was injured. This helicopter was taxiing when it suddenly had to do an evasive maneuver to avoid hitting a plane. This guy tried to hide in a plane engine to hitch a ride. Luckily, he was caught before the plane went anywhere. This helicopter was landing when a plane suddenly appeared below it. This huge Antonov plane was stuck in the mud, and instead of towing it, they applied full thrust. And just like that, it got out. This Airbus A319 doing a low pass. This is another plane that's flying really low. This pilot quickly throwing the plane into reverse to park in a hangar. This is one way to stop a fighter jet. This Boeing 727 was overloaded and took off really late. This Red Bull stunt plane pilot touching the water and barely avoiding a crash. This Cessna had just taken off when the engine cowling came loose.
Our cowling's popping open on my side.
Oh shoot. Oh shoot.
My airplane.
You have the airplane.
This forced the pilot to return to the airport.
Gonna be a YouTube trending video. Nice.
Gotta make the landing nice if it's gonna go on YouTube. Alright, and then we'll just hit it with a little turn off here. And we're good!
These people accidentally activated the emergency slide. This plane made a really steep turn after taking off, which even triggered the bank angle callout.
Bank angle.
This helicopter got stuck on one side while trying to take off. This Boeing 757 landing on a runway filled with snow. This Airbus A300 being submerged into the water, seen from a diver's perspective. This plane landing on a snowy mountain. This plane was trying to land in bad conditions, and one of the passengers filmed this video showing the plane flying next to the runway, almost hitting the ground. This plane was overloaded and barely made it over the trees. This is a glider that takes off by people running. This plane flying really low. This plane being shot at by laser beams. This helicopter doing a nosedive.
Quiet.
This new Boeing 737 engine starting up for the first time, causing this to happen. This plane looks like it's frozen mid-air. Of course, this is actually just an optical illusion. This plane using up every inch of the runway.
Yeah, you can lift it up anytime you like.
That'd be good. Oh, look at that.
Jesus Christ. Shit.
During an air show, they hired an experienced pilot to act like he stole a plane and didn't know how to fly. This is how it looked.
What did you do? What do you have to say for yourself, Mr. Pilot?
He stole my airplane!
Why did you get out of the airplane?
He doesn't know how to fly that thing!
Can he hear us? Did you leave a headset in there?
No, I didn't. He's gonna have to figure it out. That poor thing. He's probably so scared right now.
Oh no, he's coming towards us.
This plane flipped over, but luckily no one was injured. This plane was taking off, but then the pilots heard a loud bang and had to abort the takeoff. The plane braked as hard as possible, causing the brakes to get really hot, and firefighters had to respond. They then taxied back to the gate and found damage to one of the tires. This pilot flying really close to the water in a small plane. This person had a Boeing 777 engine part land in their yard after the engine exploded over Denver.
Everybody's fine. The house was not damaged. There's a house down the street that was, just had its roof caved in. Our house, really, that's the only thing is the gutter on it. My dad's truck is completely totaled, probably. Yeah, everybody's safe, and so there you go.
This plane climbing a steep hill and then going back down. This Boeing 747 has 5 engines. The extra one is there because it's actually being transported and it's not being used. This helicopter landing like a plane. This is how landing a glider in rain looks. This plane touched down without one of its landing gears and went off the runway. These two planes collided when one of them was taking off and hit the other. This plane was about to land when suddenly there was a lot of turbulence.
Oh, just be prepared for a go around. Whoa. Whoa. A little bit. Going around. Yeah.
This caused the pilots to abort the landing attempt and go around.
Wow. What's she doing? Trying to get high to pull out the wind?
Yeah.
This plane doing a low pass while making a turn. This A320 landed really hard at about 3.6 Gs, causing it to bounce and get damaged. This jet intake creating a mini tornado. This plane flying just above another plane. This plane had to land without its landing gear due to hydraulic problems. This is what flying through a red sandstorm looks like.
يا ساتر الدنيا انعدمت. الراية الراية شفتها في حياتي. كم سنة كابتن طيران؟ آخر مرة شفت حاجة كانت شبه كده 1982. أنت كم سنة طيران؟ من سنة 79.
This plane landing sideways in a crosswind. This plane was parked when a really strong wind picked it up. This helicopter dropping a caravan during an air show. These jets passing by really low. This jet was taxiing in South Africa when it almost hit a cheetah. This pilot doing an unrestricted climb after taking off in an F-16 fighter jet.
450, you ready to go? Ready? Here we go. It's gonna be a little bit before we get you higher than that for traffic. Wow. Yep. That was awesome. Departure, good morning. Viper 01's passing 5,000 per 10,000. Okay, Viper, what runway you off? Or what?
These jets flying information almost had a bird strike. This pilot flying really low over a beach in Brazil. This maneuver actually caused the pilot to get arrested for dangerous flying. This person filmed a plane taking off and it looks like the propellers are not moving. This happens because the propeller matches the shutter speed of the camera. This plane starting up after 10 years out of service. These two planes passing by while flying low. This Lufthansa A380 being escorted by Bulgarian Air Force fighter jets. This was due to the flight being the first A380 landing in Bulgaria back in 2016. These C-17 Glowmaster planes were flying back to the airport from a training exercise when they decided to do a low flyby over the Sunshine Coast in Australia. This plane in Florida had an engine failure and had to land on a beach. The nose of the plane dug into the sand, but luckily no one was injured. This plane doing a very low pass. This Airbus A350 was really close to hitting some birds while taking off from London Heathrow. This guy landed on a small dirt road in the middle of a forest in Brazil.
Estão vendo como é que é?
These two F-16s doing low flybys. This Boeing 777 was climbing out of an airport in Japan when the left-hand engine failed and its access doors ripped off. The plane then had to return to the airport and made a successful emergency landing, and luckily no one was injured. These people were driving in London when a plane flew right over them. This is how you refuel a plane mid-air. This helicopter was taking off in England when suddenly the wind created from the rotors destroyed the helipad beneath it. These pilots decided to go around in the last second, but the plane still touched the ground. This plane had a bird strike just after taking off from Costa Rica. The pilots then returned to the airport and landed safely. This plane flying under a bridge before landing. This plane usually needs 2,200 meters to land, which is about 7,200 feet, but was forced to land on a short 700 meter runway, which is about 2,300 feet. This meant the plane had to brake as hard as possible. But it still managed to stop. This plane caught on fire at the gates, but luckily no one was injured since no one was in the plane. This plane flying really close to the trees while approaching an airport in a forest. This plane landing on snow without skis. This plane could not go anywhere because of this bird. This plane disappearing into the fog. This plane landed too early and hit the ground before the runway. This plane was trying to take off in strong winds when it suddenly went off the runway. Luckily, no one was injured. This plane passing a car. This plane had a bird strike after taking off in Mexico. The crew then decided to shut the engine down and return to the airport. They landed safely and luckily no one was injured except the bird. This person was filming two parked planes when suddenly a fighter jet appeared and did a cool maneuver. This Boeing 747 flying low over the Golden Gate Bridge in San Francisco.
Wow.
This military helicopter had to make an emergency landing on a beach after the pilots got a low oil pressure warning. This plane took off with a bunch of snow on its wing, and this is what happened. These divers jumping out of a helicopter into the water. This plane passing by really low. This plane flying sideways, really close to the ground. This plane landing on a dirt runway could not stop in time, causing it to go off the end of the runway. Luckily, no one was injured. This plane had a massive fuel leak while taxiing to take off and had to return to the gates. This Blue Angels jet taking off with style. This plane was taking off when the pilots noticed that the plane could not pull up and that something was wrong. They then aborted the takeoff, but the plane couldn't stop in time and overran the end of the runway, which also caused the landing gear to collapse.
What happened?
Luckily, no one was injured. The C-130 landing in the desert, creating a huge cloud of dust behind it. This crop duster had to make an emergency landing in a field.
Chama o socorro lá, velho.
Deus quiser. Ai, é bom mesmo, velho. Oi, é Deus, rapaz. Vamos lá, Lu? Vamos. Graças a Deus, o cara foi bom, hein?
These kids in Congo got really excited watching this plane take off. This plane washing its tires. Helicopter dropping off concrete in a rush. This is how an aircraft carrier flyby looks from inside the cockpit. This person turned a plane into a car, or a car into a plane. This person was filming out of the cockpit while flying right next to another plane. These fighter jets flying really close to the water. This glider landing in a storm in Sweden. This huge RC plane landing quite hard. These jets flying by the control tower. These jets doing touch and goes on an aircraft carrier. This person was driving when they saw an Airbus A380 looking like it's hovering.
Look at it, for real. Looks like it's just kind of hovering there. I almost want to stop on the side of the road so you can see. It's barely moving. That is crazy.
This plane taking off off-road. This plane doing a low flyby over the runway.
No, miramos viene, boludo. Mira, mira lo que es esto. Nada, impresionante, impresionante.
Dísele que no quiere el tren,
¡Ey! ¡Epa!
This helicopter landing in snow. This pilot flying illegally low over a city in Brazil. This actually cost his license to get suspended. This plane's propeller creating vortices. This pilot's flying just 1,000 feet below another plane. The C-130 landing on a beach as part of an exercise. And that's it for this week. Thank you guys so much for supporting this series. It's been almost 2 years now since it started. I have shared over 1,000 aviation videos with you guys, and I hope to share 1,000 more. But anyways, I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and I will see you guys in the next one.